so many hidden cost things that even I didn't know when we started.
So welcome to the show, Brooke Davies.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming. So you sing for, I hope I got this right, the Wild Violets.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
How did how did the band form?
So the band has been together for years and years. I joined, I think it's 3 years ago. um, but it was weird times with COVID and all of that. So we weren't actually allowed to physically be in a room together for the first few months of me joining. Um, but they were, so Felipe, who's the guitarist, he met the bassist in uni and they started this band. It actually wasn't even disco, it was nothing. It didn't sound anything like, I think it was rock, like a heavy rock band or something. And then it just had like different phases. They had different people in the band, different sounds. And yeah, so then it turned into this. I joined, and then Hannah, who is the pianist, she joined. Probably, I could have all of my times wrong. It could actually be like 4 years, but I'm going to say she's been part of the band for 2.5 years. And then, yeah, recently we've had um, Tommy, who's our new drummer, and George, who's our new bassist, and they've also joined. So that's where we're at now. Um, yeah, it's a new era, but exciting one for us.
So what's it like to see members come and go from a band?
Since I've joined, it was, yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I first joined and then the drummer was leaving. That was always going to happen because he was moving out of London. So I was like, okay, that leaves it a little bit shaky, but it was mostly me and Felipe who were writing together. Like that was the core, and then Hannah joined. So I'd say the core even now is me, Hannah, and Felipe. We're writing the music. We're sort of behind all of that side. As the new members join, obviously that might shift, but yeah, I guess it's weird. You sometimes like you worry if somebody leaves, will the motivation, will the like connection change? But in my experience, adding Tommy and George to the band has been really enjoyable. And they've brought like a new energy, which I think we needed to keep things moving, like motivation. And yeah, it's just nice to have people that you can develop with because we've used session musicians before. Um, we had an amazing drummer, but he was a session musician previously. And although we love to play with him, it kind of, you need people settled, you need people that you can develop with and that prioritize and the band. Um, so now I feel like we're finding our feet, but I feel quite grounded. It feels comfortable now. But yeah, I definitely think when somebody leaves, you're like, oh God, what's going to happen? Are we going to stay together?
Would you also say it's a chemistry issue? Because that's, to use what you said with Tommy and George joining, it could have, you've said it's gone well, but we could be living in a completely different world where it didn't, and the Wild
Exactly.
Violets has someone called Gordon, and yeah, you know what I mean. You could just have someone completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have not worked, which is why we said like, we played a few gigs together first. We were like, let's play some gigs, do some rehearsals, see how we get on in that experience, which we really enjoyed. So we didn't necessarily at the beginning say, you're in the band straight away. We did like an audition. We basically, not an audition, it was like a jam session more, where we all got together, we jammed a few songs, they'd learned some, and we were like, oh, we're really impressed with these guys. It feels really nice in this room. Let's invite them to do, I think they did 2 gigs with us. And then we were like, yeah, we play well on stage. They are good on stage. We all have more charisma together on stage. So yeah, in that sense, it's worked really luckily well. But you are totally right. It might not have. But in that sense, I guess that's why we give ourselves some time to be like, and we make people aware that we're going to see how this goes for their sake and for ours. And then yeah, luckily we didn't have to say like, sorry, it's not worked out, because I would have hated that. I would not have wanted to do that.
I can imagine the situation. Thank you for coming, but no.
But no, thank you. We did see some people that we were like, we interviewed people like this. We did meets. We just set up like, that's what's great about having all these like Zoom and Google Meets now, because you can save yourself the having to physically go and the cost and the time and the expense of doing auditions. We would have had to hire a space to do them, or like, so we could just meet people first, sort of see how they were, got a vibe for them, what was their experience, and then we sort of made our decision. But it was actually, I think we did one or two other jams. Um, but we'd met George and Tommy, and they were in the same one, and we just liked that. That was like, we had so much fun that day. We had little recordings. We practiced old stuff. We even like wrote some new stuff. They just played around with some stuff. Like, it was a creative experience that was just exciting for where it might lead.
So how did you get involved with the band, and did you go through all that audition or jazz jam sessions, or was it slightly different for you?
It was different for me actually because of the COVID aspect. I think all of us had a slightly different, apart from Tommy and George, obviously, because that was all together at the same time, but we've all had a slightly different route in. For me, their old singer was moving to New Zealand. So literally the other side of the world. Yeah, it's hard enough to get everybody in a room together sometimes, but when you're on the other side of the world, it's just not going to happen. So she was going there, and they were looking for a new singer, and I think I put an ad out on a website called Bandmix, and basically, I think they saw me on that and then contacted me via Instagram. So the Felipe, the guitarist, he messaged me and he was like, "Hey," and the process was, he essentially they had a song, they sent me the track, and I got it a bit wrong. I ended up writing my own song on top of the music, and they're like, "Oh no, 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 we actually already have the song. Just wanted you to sing it. We just wanted you to see how your voice sounded on it." And I was, I spent hours writing this song, and I don't know. I have to, like, one day I'll have to dig it out. It was in my like computer somewhere on a hard drive or something. But I probably dread to hear it. But yeah, so that was my way in. Actually, what I didn't realize, and I think it was good that I didn't know this, because if I'd have known, I would have felt loads of pressure. But he messaged me and he was like, "Oh, we just wanted to meet you as a band." So I did like a Google Meets thing, and then we were like, "Yeah, hi, yeah, they all really liked you." And we've auditioned 30 singers, and we've gone with you. And I was like, "Oh my god, thank God I didn't know it was like that," because I don't think I would have been able to do as well. Like, it would have just been a really high stressful situation, when you're trying to perform music in like a competition format. It's never as enjoyable, like if I'd have known I was in an audition and there was 30 other singers, I would have been like a bit more freaked out. But that was my way in. And then I know Hannah, we were thinking like, they'd never had a pianist in the band, and they were like, they had, but it wasn't like a permanent member, I think. So they were like, it'd be good to like somebody that just played a few songs and then would like go off for a few and come on for a few. And then they got Hannah in, and that was like, she sent us her jamming along to one of the songs on keys, and we were like, "Yeah, that sounds really good. Let's get her in." That was her, and so yeah, I think we've all had like, when that COVID time, that was the only way we could do it. Now, obviously, the best way as musicians to know if you like somebody's sound or their skill or the way about them is to be in a room together, really. But obviously, we couldn't at that point.
I guess the advantage you had with doing it online was, with the other 30 singers, you didn't see the pressure cooker, if that makes sense. You could
I
just...
I didn't even know that was happening. I thought they wanted me to be the singer, and I didn't realize they was considering anybody else.
Your competition exists somewhere.
Yeah, virtually.
No, it could have all been AI.
Yeah. there is AI music now. They are writing music with
Oh.
AI, which is scary. Well, obviously, like, yeah, it's kind of crazy what they can do. It's like that line between we've got to embrace it and find ways to make it work, but I don't want it to put me out of work.
No, I know
um,
what you mean. It's how much can it enhance your work versus how
yeah,
much can it take over? Because I think
yeah,
I wasn't planning on bringing up AI, but but I've heard stories of people who've lost their jobs to AI, and I know within the voice acting industry, because I don't know if you know him, Brian Safara.
not sure. No, I don't think so.
No, we were talking about it when he was on the show, and he said it's gotten incredibly scary because, if I remember this correctly, I gave him an example of a teacher who almost got in trouble because some moron used his voice via an AI to make him say a bunch of stuff like racist stuff.
Yeah,
Thankfully, in the teacher's case, it was the people already knew the teacher, so yay. But then we were talking about how AI, just like music and voices, we've got, since it's already been nailed down. I could use an AI clone to make you sing a bunch of stuff that you may not like, and you could have me interview someone who I wouldn't have on the show.
you
It's
won't even need to be in the recording studio anymore.
Mm.
A way that I've seen it use is for artwork, album artwork, and that sort of stuff. People using AI to do that. Obviously, that cuts a massive cost of paying a graphic designer or an artist or something like that. But at the same time, if everybody starts doing that, those jobs won't be there anymore. And I think the thing that feels like annoying about AI is that you teach it how to do your job essentially. So you give it intelligence the more you use it. So like it can be used quite a lot in my work sometimes, and in the sense of like, oh, I need it to help me just draft an email or something like that. But the more I give it the information I need to give it, the more it will just take over. It becomes smarter essentially.
Yeah, because I use it to write a cover letter, not for my current job, but for a different job. At the time, I thought I wanted this kind of role, and I got an interview out of it. I was thinking,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not joking. I was just sat thinking, so why the hell have I not been
yeah,
using this entire
yeah,
time? Because I didn't go to the interview, to be clear, but I just, because it turns out I hate this kind of work. It's warehouse for those who want
yeah.
to know, but yeah, it's just I know what you mean. But the other problem with it is that we're here now. It's only really been public for what, a year or two. Imagine in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly. It's learning constantly,
Mm.
constantly. I mean, I did as well. I think it's in the sense of like when you're applying for jobs, it is great because, um, especially if you're applying for lots of different types of roles, like you're not sure exactly what it is you wanted to do, it helps you be able to apply for different roles. So it helps rather take hours if you had to write complete cover letters for, oh, I want to go for a job in retail management, or I want to, or I might want to go and be a receptionist. Like you could apply for such a broad um like amount of jobs with the tool. But yes, obviously, you do have to be careful because I remember I was writing a end of year review for myself. Actually, hopefully my boss won't see this, but I was writing my end of year review, like a self, performance review of what you think, and I was like, it loves the word fostering, like I just like I had to take it out because I was like, it's ridiculous. And I know that one of the managers was like, it was amazing how many people's self reflections used the word fostering. We just thought like chat GPT.
Fostering this thing, fostering that, and we're
It was
also
like
fostering.
it's not a normal word that most people would use in their writing. So
I guess you would use it occasionally, but not for like.
yeah, not in every paragraph.
I'm just trying to picture that right now. It's like, here you go. Oh, for God's sake, this is a seventh one with the word fostering about
Yeah.
10 How much would you say AI has impacted your band then?
It hasn't yet,
Ooh, that's good news.
I think. I mean, I don't know. We haven't used it yet, but it definitely helps with like, actually, I tell a lie. I used it when I was applying for um a festival application. It was, I can't think what it was. It's like, it was give us a description about your band and and each application has slightly different question that they sort of, it's a similar thing like describe yourself, give us your bio, but sometimes one is more specific. They want an answer about you know your future, or somebody tell me something about the past, and it helped me like use almost like a template of a paragraph. So I got all the information I wanted in there, but then I reworded it and put a little bit of like my own touch there, because it's like it sounds computer generated when until you can like you change it a little bit. But I find it really, really helpful for giving me the template of writing, because I can get a bit in my head sometimes, writing like a paragraph or a page of writing about myself or about anything. I just don't structure it necessarily properly. So I find it in that sense, it's really useful because it gives you like clear, okay, this paragraph I need to talk about this paragraph I should talk about this, and now I'm moving on to this, and it does that in a real. I think that's what I would use it for, and that's how I've used it when I had to do those descriptions. Um, but other than that, we haven't. I'm not saying we won't ever use it. I don't like that they're using it to like write songs. I don't. I That's beyond me. I think like it's something emotional. I can understand maybe if you wanted like some words that give you like I don't know, like a give me words, alternative words for this when you were writing a song. I could understand in that sense it could be useful.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. It's give me an alternative for the word bothered.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like in that sense, fine, because it's like, um, yeah, it's not creating it for you. You're still writing it. It's still yours. It's still your message, but you'll just maybe need a little like hint to a word. I think in that sense. But yeah, maybe I can't lie. Maybe we would look at it for an artwork. I don't know, but like it's not easy. Self-funding like band stuff, it's expensive, and we prefer to put the money in the creating of the music, so the recording and the mastering, rather than having to spend loads and loads of money on loads of artworks and stuff like that. Yeah, so I don't know how it will go. Open to it, but also don't. It's not something I would think to use that much.
If you're enjoying this episode, why not give it a like? I kind of alluded to this earlier with when you've gotten new band members in, but what are some of the logistical problems with working together as a band of five? Because, like you said, with that one person that went off to New Zealand and you're self-funding your entire music and creative endeavor, what other logistical challenges are there behind running a band that most people will not or do not know about?
Time. Time and scheduling is probably the thing that is hardest logistically, because you need to be together in the same space. But to get five of you, especially the more members you have, the harder it becomes. In the same space with this, in like, you're not just, it's not just an hour, you need hours. Like, yeah, we would say at least four usually when we meet up. By the time you sit down, you turn everything on, and it's like, I mean, if it's rehearsal, it could be a bit less if you're just running songs. But if it's writing and all that, but like the logistics, but that also means in terms of like creating content, that time wise again, it's like how you can all be together at the same time in the same place, making content, making music, making all of this stuff. Time is like a big one for us. That I think when you see content online, you think you just receive it, don't you? You just look at it and you scroll in and you like it, whatever. But yeah, when there's a lot of you, it can become harder. And I think as a band, I like the idea of keeping that content of not necessarily all of us in everything, but I don't want it to just be me in everything and like, oh, because people are like, oh, you're the singer, so you could be in everything. But I quite like it's like we're a band. Otherwise, I could be a solo artist, and if I wanted to do that. But so it for me, it's important to have that content. It doesn't have to be every post, but yeah, I'd say time. That would be my answer. I guess, sorry, also money. What we were talking about, yeah, the self-funding. It's the big reason why we took on 2 new members at the same time was because we were having to pay a session musician who was amazing, but just we wanted him to be in our band. We did offer him that, but he was like, he is a session musician, so it's very hard for him to turn down work for, like, say we had a gig on the same night, that sort of thing. So we were like, yeah, we totally understand. We can't afford to pay somebody though per gig, per rehearsal, because we're not earning enough. Everything we earn from the gig is gone to pay one person in the band. There's no money to rehearsals. There's no money. There's so many hidden cost things that even I didn't know when we started, that we've adapted to, and we put money in, but we tried to cover it with gigs and stuff. But even that, getting paid from gigs that are original music is not actually as common as you think, unless you're a massive artist. Um, they people are like, well, you're getting to show your music to people. So it's like that balance between exposure and that. Like, there gets a point where you're like, I'm so sick of being told about exposure, which obviously is really important. But like, for example, going back to the money side of it, like, we've recorded in studios, like really good recording studios that costs a fortune though. So per song, we were looking over £1,000, and we were like, we can't release music as fast as we want to release music because we can't afford to record it. So we were like, okay, let's think then, what can we do? How can we do this? Like, we've got to think of a new way to get music out there. So what we ended up doing was paying for half of a day in a drum studio with a drummer, and to record on our last EP. It was 3 songs, so he did all 3 tracks in half the day, and then we took away the audios, stems, and we recorded the rest at Felipe's. In his Felipe's lucky enough to sort of have his own like studio set up at home, and yeah, we literally recorded everything from there. I actually stood here though. It was right before Christmas, and we had to get the demos done last year. And I stood there with my microphone in that cupboard with loads of blanket, trying to absorb the sound. Like, I stood there because it was just like we'd done all of it at his house, and then we just had like a few little final things that I was being like, oh, I just want to put this vocal thing in. So I was literally stood there like Christmas Eve singing still. But yeah, so we had to be flexible. We had to adapt, so we can release music quickly and yeah, basically cost effective. But yeah, you've got to think of, I guess so many people wouldn't have thought about like the fact when we go to rehearse or content, when we go to rehearse for a gig, we've got to pay per session, and you've got to pay for the rehearsal studios, and then your travel, your transport, all of that. I'd say logistically, that is really hard for up and coming artists. You just have to find your way of making it work. And there are ways, and there are, some people get grants and funding. Basically, there's Patreon. There is ways out there. You just got to get a bit creative.
So, what has been your most creative way of funding your band, or just going to? Because you've done a few gigs and festivals as well.
Yeah.
What's your most creative method that you
Oh,
had to use? Not you just did it because it was fun. No, you generally had to, otherwise you were screwed.
yeah. All right. So when we started, um, I was working um in a pub, so my wage wasn't very high. So it was quite hard for me to pay for anything that we were doing, really. Um, and what we had to play gigs, but like function gigs, not our own music. So a function gig, like covers. You playing songs people know. And I tell you, I mean, I guess it's not creative what we had to do in that sense. Like, it's not that exciting, but honestly, like every musician has to do it. You have to play into empty rooms, rowdy pubs, like, some of it was fun. It's all character building. Um, but I'd say like that was like, if we didn't do that, we were screwed. We basically had to do that if we wanted to keep the band going, because physically couldn't afford, and obviously like it wasn't fair for one person to pay for everything. At times somebody would be like, right, I'll cover this, you pay me back. But that, you don't really want to do that, because it's a lot of pressure for one person financially. And that, whenever money gets involved, it can cause issues. You don't want the finance when you're trying to be creative and do something together. You don't want finance, like, oh, you still owe me that, 100 quid or something. Yeah, so I'd say those gigs, honestly, playing one of them literally was just us and like a chef and a bar staff that worked there. And then one of them was just like a crazy, just like really drunk people in a pub. We played there a few times. Money was so poor for how we had to bring all of our own equipment, like amps, everything. Like obviously we'd take our instruments with us, but we had to bring our own amps to hear ourselves, monitors, all of that. So that one, like, there was just this one, the first half, it was just like, oh God, I can't. It was like the power went down, everything goes wrong, and it's just like wrong. The second half like was good and everybody was dancing, but it was like chaos in there. It was bonkers.
I could just imagine some external force going, right, this is power's gone, now your guitar's broken, now your amp's gone, now your monitor's
Yeah,
died, and now your cable's snapped.
Yeah, I went out at the break. I went out the pub, walked around the corner, and actually have a real, like, I was like, I just want to go home. My God, like it's just going so wrong. And then I was like, no, come on, I had to really have like a talk with myself and be like, get in there and just finish it. It's 45 minutes, and then you can go and enjoy your evening. Just got to do it. Ended up being great the second half, but great, I say, as in like compared to the first half. It was just very rowdy, but like fun, I guess. That's quite fun when you've got people that want to dance and sing, but like glasses being smashed. Like, yeah, yeah. That is obviously like, it is fun when you have a lively audience. But I think that was like, yeah, drunk, lively, and covers. We were playing covers. Like, it gets boring playing the same song over and over and over, like covers over and over. But we had to do it. I mean, yeah, we just have to. Sometimes it's how you can make money to fund your own projects.
Yeah, I know what you mean. With this podcast, I've got the advantage where I can do it from my home and my guests don't have to come here. It's all been done online. But I guess in your case, it's you, four others, and you've actually got to be somewhere every single time.
Exactly, yeah.
Since you've already given this episode a like, why not to leave a comment as well? Do you have because you're the lead singer, do you have the added pressure or added problem where there's a lot more attention focused on you because you're the one who's actually singing the majority of the time, as opposed to, oh, I really should have written down what they did, say George, is he the one on the guitar?
George's bass.
Oh, bass,
Bass.
right. But my point is like with him on bass, he's just playing the instrument. With you, you're just singing into the mic. Is there more?
Yeah. I know exactly what I'm going to say because, yes, but basically, what happens is when we play a gig, for me, it's my voice and then the audience. That's like it sounds so like cheesy, but like instrument in a way of like, that's what everybody has something that they do on stage. So like Hannah's singing a little bit, she's playing keys, she has something that she can focus on. But for me, I'm just looking out, so if it's quiet or if it's like, I don't know, everybody's say, well, even if it's busy, everything, and you're really nervous or like, if anything, you can't hide when you're the singer. You cannot hide. And I'd say in that sense, yes, sometimes pressure. So for me, like when we've played quieter gigs, I think like not necessarily quieter, but like calmer. Like we played one where it's like seated, and that's really because we're a disco band. It's not really, we didn't know, but the front of the venue was seated, and which was lovely for the rest of the artists. But for us that night, we were like the disco because a lot of that was more like acousticy stuff, but we are like full on disco band. So it was like that feeling. I was like, oh, this is hard because I'm trying to stay active, dancing, woo, 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 to a room of like nothing, because everybody else can just be like, yeah, playing. George can just be like, I'm just going to have fun playing my bass. And it's just like a rehearsal, but I'm there like, like everybody sees everything that you're going to do. But that being said, it's really fun as well because you get to interact with everybody on stage, So, for example, like I get to walk around freely, not stationed to one instrument. I find it hard, yeah, like sometimes with footage and stuff like that. Obviously, you're in a lot of it when you're the singer. So, oh God, that outfit didn't look that nice on me. Oh no, why? I didn't realize that was tucked in there, something like that in that sense, yeah. But ultimately, it is really nice to be the singer because, yeah, you get to move, you get to interact with the audience, which is so fun. When you've got the right audience, it's probably the funnest one because you'll get to dance and go over. I've gone out before and actually we had a dance off at one of ours, so I got to actually get down. I went round in one of our gigs that we played like with the mic, so it's like nobody else would really got to do that because they're plugged in. So in that sense, it was really cool. But yeah, definitely when you're the singer, there is a little bit more pressure, I'd say. And also everybody knows what language, so the words, everybody can hear. I know people don't know the words of your song necessarily word by word, but when somebody's like not making sense, or when you sing, when somebody hits a bad note, you can hear it. You might not be bothered, but you can hear it. Whereas sometimes with instrumentalists, you can just hide. You like, oh, they hit a bum note, but the next one you hear, and you wouldn't notice. I've sometimes not noticed at gigs. They've been like, oh my God, I made so many mistakes. I'm like, did you? Sounded great to me. But it's because I don't play that instrument. I didn't realize. But yeah, I'd say with singing, everybody can hear if you've done it, like when you're doing well or when you're not. So yeah, a little bit of pressure in that sense.
I suppose as well, the most important thing, and I struggle with this in myself, is you have to get the audio right. But with music, I know what you can do. You can make it quieter than the actual vocals, but the vocals is the thing you have to get right because that's the thing everyone's going to notice.
And if I could tell you how many gigs we've had where it hasn't been right, obviously, like it's a sound engineer's job to do that. But how many gigs I've literally had the audience being like, you need to turn up the mic, we can't hear you. And I've had to tell the engineer on stage, you need to turn the mic off. Yeah. Yes. Luckily, it'd be hard to do that from stage though, because you can't hear what everybody else can hear.
Yeah, it's also the case where it's hard to see when you're in the trenches. Because I've been working with someone on this podcast, and he's pointed out stuff. I've gone, oh, okay. I would not have thought that because I'm the one currently
Yeah.
interviewing you and everyone else is going to come. But he can look at it from an outsider's perspective and go, Dan, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is good, this is wrong, this needs tweaking. And I would, just because I'm in the driver's seat, I had one of my mates on commonly, and he says when you're in the driver's seat, you can't really see around the corner, but they can see around the corner. I would assume it'd be
Yeah.
the same with you. It's the audience can tell when something's wrong, but you're the one singing, and it's like,
Yeah. You have to hide everything. Yeah, you've got to hide everything when you're the singer. I think, yeah, I think, you know, another way in, like, yes, you're exactly right about in the trenches, because one thing for me, like, I know I feel uncomfortable doing is like the talking between songs. Like sometimes it's fine because there's things happening that you can pick up on and you can react to in like live time. But sometimes it's harder. And I know like I've definitely relied on like having my mum there to be like, what worked? What when I said this, did it work? When I said she says you were talking too fast sometimes on the stage and couldn't really hear what you were saying. You know, like somebody that's listening to you without like the harsh judgment you have on yourself, that can see what's good and what isn't and feed that back to you. It's really helpful. Really, really helpful.
I know that's something that Jeremy Clarkson, the former Top Gear presenter, did on the Grand Tour. I hate it because they've basically stopped doing that. He had someone in the back taking notes on the jokes that he was making, and they would feed to him, okay, this one works because the audience laughs. This one kind of works. Some laughs, and this just shite. And I think it was, I might get the guy's name wrong, but Kevin Hart, who I think he hired 6 other comedians, but their job was to help him perfect his craft. They weren't like ghostwriters. So some of them, they would help with writing the jokes, but the aim point was to also pick up on which ones worked and which ones didn't. So if he said a joke and that it bombed, it's just having that alternative eye view. Well,
it's really important to be able to put aside ego and know that you're doing it to be better at your craft, whatever that is. It's so important. And it's hard sometimes to hear things because you're like, you take it personally, but you have to try your best to better yourself from feedback, and see it as like, yeah, an opportunity rather than a criticism, an opportunity to be even better at what you do. Um, you know, it is difficult. I mean, you know, even in the recording of music, there's reasons why we get somebody to mix it and master it separately. Like, whilst we don't do that because we're biased in our ears, they can hear things and they bring things. Well, God, we've had some things that they've just turned something up or tweaked something, and we're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. How didn't we hear it? But we needed somebody else's like expertise or experience or just is basically to hear it and to do that. You know, that's something we wouldn't be able to do ourselves because I can't, when I'm listening, I'm like, oh, turn the vocal up because I want to hear my part because I want to hear what I'm doing. And then Felipe's like, oh, turn the guitar up. And Hannah's like, oh, turn that synth part up. So you can't all be like battling. You have to have somebody from outside sometimes to like say, this sounds best to everybody else.
would you say it keeps your band grounded?
Yes. Yes. Also like gives you new ideas, new inspiration. When you hear the feedback. And yeah, new direction. I think we've even within our band, we've come really like much better in the writing process, for example, at being able to like, not, if you don't all agree, you don't all like the same musical choice, or we've been even better there at learning how to say it kindly, but to express your feelings. So I think I'd say we're definitely grounded people.
Since you've already liked and commented on this episode, why not to subscribe to the main channel as well? Do you ever have that fear where you hear of those stories of bands who do comeback tours or reunion tours, but they secretly hate each other for whatever reason. Do you ever worry that's going to happen with the Wild Violets, or is it just something you just don't think about, or you're quite confident that's not going to happen?
Yeah, I think every band is different. So some bands are people that have been friends for years, their whole lives, and some bands are people that are more put together, like they were seeking a band with new musicians, which is what it was in our case. So we've built friendship from being in this band, but we didn't know each other before. You know, we were strangers when we met. Um, and I'd say the more years that have gone by, the better we've become as friends. And our lives are all still quite separate, other than the band, because we all have full-time jobs, like quite high demanding. So then we see each other once or twice a week, which is quite a lot. You know, that's quite a fair bit. So yeah, I'd say we're all independent because we all still exist by ourselves, which I think works for us. But you know, we get on so well. We laugh so much. We have quite similar sense of humours. I don't worry that we won't get along, because I think we do. I think I don't think we're going to fall out. Obviously, you can never know. But I know what you mean about people doing reunion things, and you know they hate each other. But did you know why it happens? It's hard. It's hard, not just a band, but in anything when you're working very closely, very creatively on your art, which is essentially part of you, and it's hard. That's why bands, not just bands, but like artists with their labels, management, bands, all of that stuff. It's hard. It's handling emotions. It's handling people's personalities on a good day, on a bad day. But I think it's nice because you go through that with people, and yeah, it's like a new group of people I wouldn't have known otherwise. That I don't see it changing.
I suppose the other advantage with you guys all living, well, essentially independent lives is that you get breaks from each other. But as you were saying that, I couldn't help but think it's kind of like a school friendship where the sense is you're only friends when you're at school, or some work friends.
I think we would hang out more, but so when I say separately, like it's geographically as well. Like we all live in different parts of London. So Felipe is living out in West London. We're quite far out. I'm northwest, but even to go to his, I have to go like into the city to go out again and stuff. Like Hannah lives southeast. Tommy is out in like Harrow, so it's not even like properly in London, is it? It's on the outskirts of London. And George is also south. So it's like geographically I don't think we could see each other more than once or twice a week, you know? Like that's time consuming to travel to West London for everybody. And I think that would be the only reason we don't spend. I think we'd spend loads of time just sitting, writing, if we could, but having full-time jobs and it's hard to manage.
It says it's house sharing or something like that between you guys.
I don't know that would be a good idea.
Okay.
No, I think it's like, no, but I think there is a limit, isn't there? It depends what sort of person you are. But I think we're all quite independent. Well, Hannah has her own place. Like she owns a place. But I don't know. I think it's what you were saying before about like going away and then coming back together. Like I know in other projects, Felipe has had other musicians that he works with move to live nearer, and that worked for them. But it would definitely help if we lived nearer together. But I don't know if living within the same space, because I don't think you don't make as much of the time you have together if you have loads. Do you get what I mean? So I think because we've got 4 hours, let's go. Like, it disciplines us. But if we were like hanging out, we just wouldn't. You watch telly, or you wouldn't be doing that, doing the music. So I think personally, I think it's good because it keeps your rehearsals our rehearsals. Like, this is the next 4 hours. This is what we're doing.
I know what you mean because since I've recently started my new job, the only time I get to do my podcast is like no get
Yeah,
yeah, but like now as we talk, I've got 2 days off. Whilst I personally don't have much time, it's like so I know exactly what you mean. You tend to
yeah,
excuse my language, but you tend to piss it up some more.
yeah,
But when
yeah,
you've got like 2-3 hours, I typically have more. But yeah, I get what you mean. It's like no, I can get on with it because
yeah,
before
yeah.
you know
Exactly.
it, it's gone.
Exactly. I feel like what I would love to do with band, well, we've talked about it for a while, is go to like a house in the middle of nowhere for like a weekend, and you just write music. You just go for walks, come back, write music together, have some drinks. Like, oh, I've just thought of something for that, and just write ideas and songs and get them like recorded. That is something that I know we all really would like to do. Because I think it's sort of a blend, isn't it? You have a lot of time together, but you only have it for a weekend, and you want to walk out of that weekend with something. So like, I think that would be like a good balance between the discipline and the hanging out together, because it is fun to hang out together. Like, it is nice. You get on, you're laughing, you're joking, and especially as creatives and musicians together, you don't always get to be around musicians and creatives when you have your other roles in life that you do. So when you're together, it's really nice because you have something in common. Oh, have you heard that song? Oh, have you heard this new album? Oh my god, let's listen to the new. And you could actually have the time to do that fun stuff. Um, that's something I think we would like to aim towards
I also
doing.
think it might accidentally turn into a tragedy. So you all move in together with the intention of making this band a thing, but because you're living together, sleeping, eating, and
Yeah,
so on, so on, and the only amount of time being you go to work away from each other, I could see it just. I don't even know whether it'd be worst case scenario, but I could see it. You might accidentally stop doing the band, and you just become essentially roommates who live
yeah,
together. Yeah.
yeah. And also, like, imagine like, oh, you've annoyed me because you haven't swept the floor today. You haven't hoovered. I don't want to write a song with you. Like, um, yeah, I think yes, it would be great if we all lived a bit closer, but it's not so easy in London to find affordable accommodation.
Yeah, because I have to, or I don't know about affordable accommodation, but I know with the transport thing, because I have to go through London to go see my
Yeah.
family. I know exactly what you mean when it comes to actually getting around there,
Mm.
because for me, it's really simple. But I look at the London Underground map, I'm like, where the hell do you go from here to here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's expensive. It's time consuming. Like, you never really, if you think about it, and you're going to travel over an hour there, and then that's over an hour back. So that's probably 2.5 hours of your night traveling. Maybe you've worked all day, and then you're like, oh, now I've got to go over there and travel over there, and then I've got to go home, and then I've got to wake up and do work again. Like, you can get in that. But so that's why I would say it would be lovely to live close, because then I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to pop around, do those vocals quickly. But like I said, also, yeah, it does discipline you with the time you do have, and you schedule time for your band, for your art, and for your development, which is really important, because it is really easy in life to just get caught up doing other things. Um,
It's
so
more
yeah.
like a benefit of the deprivation.
Hmm.
So I was before I went back to work, I was spending a lot of time doing the podcast, and to be honest, whilst I was getting on with it and whilst I was very disciplined, I wonder if the reason my output was so bad was because I just had so much time on my hands. Like I
Hmm.
definitely
Yeah.
filled it with stuff and I had other stuff I had going on, but I just didn't have that same perception. It's kind of ironic. You think more time would make you more productive, but in a
It
yeah,
it does, it definitely doesn't. I've had it as well. I've had exactly the same. Where I was like, oh great, I'm going to be working part time. I'm going to have so much time to do music. Didn't do any music.
yeah. I
um,
remember sorry to interrupt, but I remember my first business outside of uni, not registered, nothing like that. I was going to do a cinematography thing. I only worked 15 hours a week. I only spend 4 hours a day on the days off actually working on the thing. So you can do the math, well, anyone at home can do the math with how much time I actually wasted on that. It
yeah.
doesn't help I wasn't up to do it.
But that's it. I think like schedule is important. Scheduling, um, it is important, especially when you're not just considering your own schedule. You know, if you're working with people on this podcast, it's the same with the band. Like, it's important to consider, yeah, your own time, their time. It's tricky, but I think it makes you disciplined. Then when you are together, you're like, right, this is what we need to come out of this rehearsal with or this session with. Um, So yeah, luckily my dad is very kind and he does come and pick me up from Felipe some evenings, which is very nice, I have to say, because the thought of going for an hour and like a half on a train back at 10 p.m. on a Monday night in the middle of winter is horrendous. But my dad, luckily, he does come, helps out.
And then you've got to be up the next morning for work on top of yeah, no. Yeah, I get that because I've had it a few times. It's like, oh great, now I'm finally could go to bed. I was midnight. I've got to be up at 4:30 because
Yeah,
it's like,
start doing that like maths of like how many hours sleep I'm gonna get. Oh no.
uh, uh,
But you
uh,
know what? When you come out with your finished product, whether it's a podcast or an album or an EP or a piece of art, you know, whatever it is that you have as your extra thing that you're making time for, when you do come up with like something. So when we released our EP, it was just the most rewarding thing. We have worked our asses off. Like we have worked so hard. I've been going to work and then on my lunch break when I was working from home, I'd be like, I'm going to quickly do this vocal. I'm going to quickly come up with this idea, or I need to write. You know, there is like, it's so rewarding when you get to the finish line that you will keep doing it, you know, and the fact that you have a passion and you have something that you love is really, it is a gift. Like the fact that having hobbies and just things that give you joy and bring you, creativity, thoughts, like it just brings you all that. It's so important, and it's important to factor it into your week. Um, whether it's once a week, it doesn't have, there's no set time, but it's important to ensure that you're doing the things you love in your life, not just working to survive. As important, as it is to work, it's important to, like, for your soul, I think, to make sure that you're still doing the things you love.
what's it been like to release albums and songs as a band? Because it's not just you. You've got to factor in four other people's opinions plus everyone else's before it goes out.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. You know, we get loads of mixes of the songs, some, little tiny tweaks, and you're like, I'm listening, I hear nothing different. And they're like, yeah, but can you just hear how this little thing sounds a tiny bit different? You're like, no, not really. But, and then, you have to decide on things, artworks, you have to decide on, like, yeah, okay, do we need to pay somebody to do that? Do we need an artist? Do we want to do a photo shoot? Do we want, like, and everybody has different opinions to bring to the table. And then, like, we've had the added extra with the EP of having a label involved in that process, which was the first time we'd had that, where it's like, okay, it's not just now what we want, it's what they want as well, because it's on their label. But it's all something that you learn, and it's a collaborative thing. It's not, if you want to do it all, you can do it all. If you want to, you can. So no, but I agree. I love the collaboration because they also, it's so nice when you have an idea and then you can develop it with people, that's such a nice feeling. And you're like, oh my God, that was just like, if I had have done that by myself, it would have just been this. And now it's this because I've brought other people's experience, other people's like taste into it. And now it's so much better. Yeah, I think collaboration is brilliant, but it is tricky. You know, it is. But it's a skill that you get so much, like the more you do it, the better you get at it. So now it's been quite a few years. I've been part of this band, but before that, like prior to it, I've had other music projects. I've always been used to working in groups of musicians. And, you know, there are frustrating times, but the more you do it, it prepares you for the next time and the next time. And learning how to get your opinion across to somebody without it being an attack or without, you know, just being heard and learning how to express your opinion to somebody. Yeah, it's a learning.
What can we all expect to see from the Wild Violets?
Well, we are working on 2 new tracks that we will be releasing hopefully at the beginning of next year. We're just still discussing, like making, finishing, writing. And then we have got a gig in November 15th at the Finsbury. It's in Finsbury Park. And then we actually not allowed to say yet, but we have a gig on January the 17th at a big music venue. It will probably be one of the biggest ones we've played, which will be really exciting for us. So that will be on our socials, but I'm not actually, it's not announced yet. So I think I'm meant to until October. But it should be within the next week or two. It'll probably be announced. But yeah, it'll be a big music venue in North London.
Brooke Davies, everyone. Where can people find you and the band if they want to learn more?
So if you want to listen to our music, you can head over to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Bandcamp. REP is on Bandcamp as well if you want to own the digital copy. That's on there. Or vinyl. Actually, they put us on a vinyl. The label had a mix of a few of their other artists, and we managed to get featured on the vinyl, which was really exciting for us. And then you can head over to social media. It'll be TheWildVoliets. TheWildVoliets. At Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm trying to remember all the socials. And then, yeah, my individual handle is Brooke Davies. It's IES. So it's Davies, but I say Davis.
The silent, isn't it?
Well, it's Welsh.
Ah.
So there's Davis. I think without the E is English, and with the E is Welsh. So my dad's family are Welsh.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode with Brooke Davies, then you will enjoy my conversation with Cheryl B. Inglehart right here. But if you want to watch some clips from the podcast instead, then I have the entire playlist right here. Until next time.